Welcome back to another week of the Breakthrough Lab podcast. This week's episode is inspired by something that happened in real life. I was recounting to Joshua a crazy, hectic car ride I had with family. And it was a beautiful encounter because one member of my family was telling another member of my family how after we had done some release work together, how another member of my family started to act differently. And this isn't something that this particular family member had shared with me before. She hadn't told me that she'd had this experience where this other person actually started to act differently. And it was so awesome to hear that, especially because of who was in the car. We all know that when we're on this path of personal growth and development, sometimes you have family members that aren't that into it. I don't know. Is that just me or have you? Okay.
I mean, even people in my life, my friends. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was at the very, very beginning of my journey. Sorry to just interrupt your story, but to answer that question, and when I was in the very beginning of my journey in personal development, I was really excited to talk about this stuff and share this stuff with my roommates and my friends and stuff. And they thought I was so weird. They thought I was so weird for being into this, with whatever programming they had about how, you just have to be yourself and whatever. If you're trying to be better, then there's some kind of implication that you're not good enough or something like that. And it's all the negative beliefs that they had about personal growth and development stuff. And they would reflect that back onto me. They would kind of project that back onto me and say that I'm weird or, act like I'm someone they didn't want to be around anymore. And I mean, we get into a different topic there, a lot of different topics that can come from that discussion. But yes, a long-winded way of answering your question. Yes, I have had people in my life, not necessarily family, but people who were close to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think the beginning, I love how you mentioned at the beginning of my journey, especially, it was the most difficult because you're trying to become this new person and instill these new patterns and habits. And you realize that your external reality literally is littered with a bunch of your old habits all around you. So it's definitely relates to this topic because that is the reality we face, whether we're just starting on the journey or we are already on the journey and we really, really, really want to share this information with family and friends. I mean, obviously, that's part of the reason that we're doing this podcast, because we have people we care about that we love, that we want to benefit from this information. And so it being in the car, hearing this story with whoever else was in the vehicle, just thinking, oh my gosh, it's so great that this person is getting to hear this because I'm not the one saying it. This is an actual anecdotal experience that somebody has had, that these techniques work and they do change your external reality. And, it got me thinking this would be a great one to just kind of, every once in a while, Joshua and I love to just have a dialogue. Let's just talk about what's going on, what's happened, and freestyle it. And so this was inspired by that incident. And so the biggest takeaway that I got from this in particular is, yes, we've all heard the saying, be the change you want to see. And yet, how many of us actually do that? How many of us actually start with our own actions, our own beliefs, our own selves? And again, this is exactly what this family member was sharing. That's something that we did together that had nothing to do with anybody else except for her beliefs, her perspectives, her baggage, her reality. How when we shifted that, all of a sudden, this other person started behaving differently. And then comes the question, well, did that person actually start behaving differently? Or is this primary person now just experiencing the reality differently because she has a new filter? She's looking at the world through a completely different set of eyes. It's like taking a pair of sunglasses that are tinted blue, taking them off and grabbing a pair of sunglasses that are tinted orange, putting them on, and then saying, oh, everything's different now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, right? It's real to the person who just changed sunglasses. Everything looks completely different. The experience is different.
Well,
has anything else really changed?
I think it's a mix of both. And I mean, this is it makes me think of that, like the story of who was the psychologist or whatever who did the healing of people, the Ho'oponopono thing. This person worked
Norma Simeon?
God, why did I think it was a male? I thought it was a he, and he was working at a drug rehab or maybe an asylum or something like that. And I should really just look this up. He healed all of the people who were there, never interacting with them, just by doing the Ho'oponopono forgiveness process with them.
Wasn't I don't know about this.
One second. I'm going to look this up.
I don't recall this story.
Okay, I just looked up the story of this just so that we can actually have it on the podcast and I'm not just talking confusingly. The doctor's name was Dr. Hugh Len, and it's a story about his usage of the Ho'oponopono forgiveness process and how it cured a bunch of the people in this psych ward. So I'm just going to read the account right now. This is actually coming from a website, evelynrodriguez.typepad.com, just for posterity. It says, 2 years ago, I heard about a therapist in Hawaii who cured a complete ward of criminally insane patients without ever seeing any of them. The psychologist would study an inmate's chart and then look within himself to see how he created that person's illness. As he improved himself, the patient was improved. When I first heard this story, I thought it was urban legend. How could anyone heal anyone else by healing himself? How could even the best self-improvement master cure the criminally insane? It didn't make any sense. It wasn't logical, so I dismissed the story. However, I heard it again a year later. I heard that the therapist had used a Hawaiian healing process called Ho'oponopono. I had never heard of it, yet I couldn't let it leave my mind. If the story was at all true, I had to know more. I had always understood total responsibility to mean that I am responsible for what I think and do. Beyond that, it's out of my hands. I think that most people think of total responsibility that way. We are responsible for what we do, not what anyone else does. The Hawaiian therapist who healed those mentally ill people would teach me and advance a new perspective about total responsibility. His name is Dr. Ihaliakala Hugh Len. Sorry to all the Hawaiians and people who I just butchered that name for. We probably spent about an hour talking on our first call. I asked him to tell me the complete story of his work as a therapist. He explained that he worked at Hawaii State Hospital for 4 years. That ward where they kept the criminally insane was dangerous. Psychologists quit on a monthly basis. The staff called in sick a lot or simply quit. People would walk through that ward with their backs against the wall, afraid of being attacked by patients. It was not a pleasant place to live, work, or visit. Dr. Len told me that he never saw any patients. He agreed to have an office and to review their files. While he looked at those files, he would work on himself. As he worked on himself, patients began to heal. Quote, after a few months, patients that had to be shackled were being allowed to walk freely, end quote, he told me. Others who had to be heavily medicated were getting off their medications, and those who had no chance of ever being released were now being freed. I was in awe. Not only that, he went on, but the staff began to enjoy coming to work. Absenteeism and turnover disappeared. We ended up with more staff than we needed because patients were being released, and all the staff was now showing up to work. Today, that ward is closed. This is where I had to ask the million-dollar question. What were you doing within yourself that caused those people to change? He said, I was simply healing the part of me that created them. I didn't understand. Dr. Len explained that total responsibility for your life means that everything in your life, simply because it is in your life, is your responsibility. In a literal sense, the entire world is your creation. Whew, that was tough to swallow. Being responsible for what I say or do is one thing. Being responsible for what everyone else in my life says or does is quite another. Yet the truth is this: if you take complete responsibility for your life, then everything you see, hear, taste, touch, or in any way experience is your responsibility because it is in your life. This means that terrorist activity, the president, the economy, anything you experience and don't like is up for you to heal. This makes me think of conflicts that are happening in the world right now. Side note, They don't exist, in a manner of speaking, except as projections from within inside you. The problem is not with them, it's with you. And to change them, you have to change you. I know this is tough to grasp, let alone accept or actually live out. Blame is far easier than total responsibility. But as I spoke with Dr. Len, I began to realize that healing for him and in Ho'oponopono means loving yourself. If you want to improve your life, you have to heal your life. If you want to cure anyone, even a mentally ill criminal, you do it by healing you. I asked Dr. Len how he went about healing himself. What was he doing exactly when he looked at those patients' files? I just kept saying, "I'm sorry," and "I love you," over and over again, he explained. That's it? That's it. Turns out that loving yourself is the greatest way to improve yourself. And as you improve yourself, you improve your world. Let me give you a quick example of how this works. One day, someone sent me an email that upset me. In the past, I would have handled it by working on my emotional hot buttons or by trying to reason with the person who sent the nasty message. This time, I decided to try Dr. Len's method. I kept silently saying, "I'm sorry," and "I love you." I didn't say it to anyone in particular. I was simply evoking the spirit of love to heal within me what was creating the outer circumstance. Within an hour, I got an email from the same person. He apologized for his previous message. Keep in mind that I didn't take any outward action to get that apology. I didn't even write him back. Yet by saying, "I love you," I somehow healed within me what was creating him. I later attended a Ho'oponopono workshop run by Dr. Len. He's now 70 years old, considered a grandfatherly shaman, and is somewhat reclusive. He praised my book, The Attractor Factor. He told me that as I improve myself, my book's vibrations will raise, and everyone will feel it when they read it. In short, as I improve, my readers will improve. What about the books that are already sold and out there? I asked. They aren't out there, he explained, once again blowing my mind with his mystic wisdom. They are still in you. In short, there is no out there. It would take a whole book to explain this advanced technique with the depth that it deserves. Suffice it to say that whenever you want to improve anything in your life, there's only one place to look: inside you. When you look, do it with love. My only caveat with Dr. Len's version of Ho'oponopono, I don't say "I'm sorry." It has certain state to it which I don't care to take on. I say, "I forgive you. Please forgive me too." Which is...
That's the version that we do as well.
Indeed. That's the end.
That freaking captured the sentiment completely.
Yeah.
Completely. 100%. And in fact, it even makes me think of when she said that story about somebody sending her an email, something very similar happening to me in real estate, having an agent who literally just reacted in a very aggressive way that he had never acted before. And I was taken aback by it. And the first thing I did when we hung up the phone was, I didn't do Ho'oponopono necessarily, but I turned to release work. Basically, I turned to me. And let me tell you what, it feels kind of crazy to do that. It is so contrary to how we have been conditioned to think of the world. The way we think of the world is that if we want to see something change out there externally, I have to take an action in that external reality. I just picked up my cup and put it up on the screen for anyone who's not watching on video, because that's what we've learned, right? We've learned the Newtonian physics that we have to interact with our reality in order to make something happen. And that does work. I'm not sitting here saying that that's not something that everyone experiences on a daily basis. However, when it comes to truly creating change on this much subtler level, what would happen if instead of trying to come on too strong, manipulate people or control what other people are doing that we love, that we care about, whose lives we want to impact for the better. What would happen if instead of doing that, and many times failing, because let's be honest, I know I've been there where I'm trying to help somebody, a loved one, someone that I care about, understand something, and they're just not getting it. And it can be frustrating because it's like I'm trying to help them and they're not being responsive. They're not letting me. And so I just stopped. Eventually got to the point in my learnings that I realized, oh, I'm doing it wrong. The only person I need to be focusing on is myself.
Yeah.
I may have an interaction with them and they may not be ready to hear that. And instead of taking it personally, I just go back into myself and say, what do I need to learn from this? What release work might I need to do? Whether that is love, whether that's Ho'oponopono, whether it's some other form of baggage, whether it be a projection or what have you. And by doing that, circling back to the story, after I sat there for a moment and did some release work, he texted me and he was like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to react that way. He then called me later because we were in the middle of a negotiation, and he proceeded to apologize again and explain, I was already not in a great mood, and normally I don't even pick up the phone, and I did. I shouldn't have. And I did not mean to speak to you in that way. I was just blown away. He felt so bad, and I was like, honestly, I didn't even care. My mind was just so blown with how immediate this happened within just a few hours time frame. And I have story after story of this sort of thing happening where when something happens in my external reality that I'm not so thrilled about, instead of reacting by trying to fix the situation
to affect the out there. Yeah.
To affect the out there, I turn back inside and I get still. Again, we have been so conditioned when something happens, we must react. And by reacting, we normally, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to change this?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, who do I need to be right now?
Yeah. What do I need to heal within myself?
Who am I not being that if I were to be it, that person or that situation would cease to be that way?
Yeah.
That's a completely different way of thinking.
And to the point that you were making earlier, that happens on two levels. It happens on the level of, because you have the orange glasses off and you have the blue ones on, or whatever you put it before, you're seeing the situation differently. You're perceiving it differently. And so it's not triggering you in the same way. That person is not triggering you. The situation is not upsetting you or whatever. And so your energy in it has completely changed. And so when your energy in that situation or with that person changes, you're not bringing the same level of, shall we say, conflict to the situation. And so if someone's mad at you and you hug them, tell them you love them, you're going to get a lot different result, I'm not saying that you need to do that necessarily, but that's just what happens because you changed the way that you're perceiving the person, the situation, the relationship, the event, the whatever. So that's the one level that this happens on. The other level is that it actually does change that person. It does change the out there. And so that's, in the same way that Dr. Len in that story, and, is that story, we haven't met Dr. Len, we haven't talked to him, or, even know I don't even know if that's a real person, but I'm sure it has to be, it's out there. In the same way that in that story, he healed all of the patients, so can you help the people in your life by helping yourself first. Yeah, because those changes do happen in those people.
Absolutely. It puts a completely different perspective on go for your oxygen mask first.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like, oh, this is serious. And, you can even go down the rabbit hole of saying, well, if my perspective has changed and I'm creating my reality, then this is why this works. And he kind of alluded to that in the article that you read, that it doesn't exist out there. It's all inside. So it's all a matter of perspective. All of it is about what you are seeing.
Yeah.
what you're creating.
Now,
it's your version of reality.
Yes. The caveat that we should throw out is that in that thing that I read, it says that everything in your life, including the president or whatever, situations in the world, and as we said, conflicts that are happening, is created in your head, in your reality. You create that stuff from within. We don't want you to feel like anything bad that's happening is your fault. We don't want you to put blame on yourself for everything that happens in life, because that's not useful, and it's not.
It's missing the point.
Yeah,
it's missing the point.
Yeah,
it's I think you can go down a rabbit hole with many things. The point being that we're so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, and the fact that if we keep trying an approach and it's not working, what can we do differently to get the outcome that we actually want? Mm-hmm. Is this the one tool in your toolkit that you haven't really looked at yet? Working on you instead of trying to change the other person.
Yeah. Did you even know that tool was there?
Of course you did. But have you been blowing it off because it doesn't seem like an actual valid tool?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, if we circle back to the beginning, that's sort of where, the person who was riding in the car, listening to all of this happening, was like, oh, I'm glad he's here listening to this, because this isn't the sort of thing that many people can wrap their mind around. Being able to accept that if I change, if I do nothing, but I only work on me, it may have an impact on the out there that I want to see. But what if it doesn't work? We've been so conditioned to think in the way of reacting that thinking in a different way is change. And it's an unknown. And we are programmed by our very base primal instincts to fear the unknown.
Yeah.
And that is why it can seem scarier to try something new than to keep trying the old way and failing over and over and over. Even though you're failing, you keep doing it over and over because you think maybe next time, maybe if I say that passive aggressive thing one more time or make this suggestion one more time, maybe this will be the time that it gets through to them. I know I've been there. No, I'm not I'm saying this, speaking honestly and authentically, that this is exactly how I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It doesn't work. It does not work. Maybe sometimes it works. If it's meant to happen, if you're in the right place at the right time, if it's the appropriate experience. And I've had so much more success by just going within, changing me first. And think about it this way. If I hadn't done that, if Joshua hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here recording this podcast. How could we be impacting you right now?
Something keeps coming into my head right now, so I just want to share it. Eminem, I am whatever you say I am. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? Now, I don't know. I've thought about this many, many times over the years. I've wondered if he knew if he knew what he was saying to the same meaning that I took from it. But I've often thought about that when people have the wrong idea about me, or when just in general, when we're talking about this kind of thing, if you keep the same perceptions that you have about people, like if Dr. Len were to have believed and looked at everyone in that psych ward as criminally insane, then that's how they would be. They are whatever he said they were. When you change your perspective, when you put on different glasses or take the glasses off altogether, then people change.
Well, I think Dr. Len took the glasses off when he got older and reclusive, because that tends to happen to people.
Yeah. Yes.
You hear of that happening with enlightenment. And I mean, I don't know anything about him, or if he was just taking an educated observation.
Yeah. Honestly, I want to live off grid right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like glasses off. Let's go. I'm done. No more tech. But here we are with our headphones and our laptops and our microphones. And anyway, on a podcast brought to you on your Apple phone or Spotify or whatever. Anyway, another thing that I thought of when you were saying, just so that people sometimes I feel like we share things and the listener might not always know to the same level that we know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I was watching a video training recordings from one of my clients who they train physical trainers. And one of the things that they said on this, they asked the question to the audience, what is the body's number one function? Any guesses? I'll tell you. Don't die.
Okay. Yeah.
Number one function, don't die. Avoid anything that could potentially kill you. And like Michelle was saying, she was referring to change and the fear of the unknown. This comes from even today, I suppose, but especially so way back in the day in, hunter-gatherer times. The unknown was things like the jungle and the forest and the depths of the ocean that we can't see. There's a lot of danger lurking in the unknown. A lot of things that could actually kill us. Change is another one. The body and our entire physiology knows that if we keep doing what we're doing that's been working to keep us alive, then we're going to stay alive, probably. If we change that, we're in the unknown and we could die. The change in routine, a change in location, a change in diet, any of those things could potentially kill us back in the day and even today, but especially so back in the day. The thing is that our brains are not that old. We haven't been around for very long, like evolutionarily, to have our brains evolve, especially, in the last several hundred years with modern day society. And so we have a lot of these old wirings in our brain still that cause us to fear change and the unknown in the same way that we did back when those things were actual dangers. And that's not to say that the unknown is not a danger today. I'm not saying you should go out into the woods and eat some random berry, but you could do that today and you wouldn't die, even if you would get sick. We have the advent of modern day health medicine and stuff like that that can keep us alive. And for a lot of the things, like we fear pain, even though pain is not going to kill us today. Like we can break an arm and we're okay because we can fix that today. We couldn't fix that very well back in the day. Or maybe we could, I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. I couldn't tell you. But my guess is that we couldn't. And you see that in the animal kingdom. Like animals that break the leg, they're done. Animals that get bit by a wild cat, like a tiger or something, even if they run away or somehow survive the attack, they're done because of bacteria and the infection, and they're just done. We don't live in those times today. And so there's no need to fear change and to fear the unknown. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about you listened to this episode because you saw the title and you thought of that person in your life who you wanted to help, who you thought, wouldn't it be great if they could just heal themselves? Or wouldn't it be great if they could just somehow be fixed? Or if they could change their circumstance? Or wouldn't it be great if something in the world was different? A situation, a place, a thing, an event. And how do I even begin to help this person, to change this situation, to fix this thing? And we're telling you on this episode, start with yourself. Because
what do you have to lose.
Yeah. Oh no, I just got better and then nothing else changed. Oh, I guess I'm better now.
Oh, now I don't react or get triggered as much when they do still do that thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
gee.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
If I were to leave you with one thought to really take with you along this topic, it would be about what Joshua was talking about earlier. When you start with the change within yourself and your energy is different and your thoughts are different, people feel that.
Yes.
You ever had somebody you see every day or you see frequently, and then one day you see them and you're like, something's different. I don't know. There's like a pep in your step, or you're smiling, or there's just something different.
Energy.
In fact, clients we work with have this happen all the time. People are just like, something is different. What are you doing? What are you doing that's different? That's how sensitive we are to energy. And this goes back to your unconscious mind can pick up 2 million bits of information per second. 2 million. Your conscious mind only processes or brings to your awareness 126 bits. And some of you may have heard this before and just imagine 2 million toothpicks all around you. Can you imagine how overwhelmed you would feel if you had 2 million toothpicks and you were trying to pick out just 126 of them? When you change your internal world, your beliefs, when you start working on you, it's the equivalent of you saying, I'm going to reach out and grab 126 different toothpicks than the ones I was choosing before. And that is why these kinds of changes can be so profound. So think about how you're showing up around the person or the situation that has been bugging you. What thoughts are going on through your mind? Are they positive or are they negative? Mm-hmm. Are they calm or are they racing and just scheming? Are you happy and grateful for them? Or are you frustrated and just wish things would change? Because I guarantee that I guarantee that they're 2 million bits. They're picking up on that. They are picking up on the subtlest of cues in your tone, in your inflection, in your energy that tells them that you don't really think that highly of them.
Yeah.
You're not appreciating them for who they are in that moment. Even if you have the best of intentions, they're going to pick up on that. And guess what? They're not going to know why, but they're going to react defensively or differently. And then they might even ask themselves or wonder, why did I react like that? She didn't say anything bad. She didn't say anything wrong. Why did I react like that? It can be a vicious cycle. And so just being very, very aware of how you're showing up in a situation and how much you influence others just by who you're deciding to be day by day.
Whether or not you're with them.
Whether or not you're with them. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because in the story you shared, that doctor didn't even have FaceTime with those people. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of a story that my mentor shared about how he worked with somebody. And he actually did a breakthrough session with them, and she was doing coaching on career. And I can't remember if it was right after the breakthrough session or maybe a few sessions into it. She told him, I had one of the most amazing, incredible things happen today. I came home and my 2 little girls who had never, ever really shown me a lot of affection came up to me and hugged me, and they both told me that they loved me. And it was I was just like, oh my gosh. Well, it turns out that her 2 girls had autism. That's why they'd never shown her affection. And just by her doing her work, having her breakthroughs in an area that had nothing to do directly with them, because again, she was working on career. Now, when you do a breakthrough session, there are other things in your life that come up that aren't related to career. So, obviously everything in your life is connected. And yet she didn't even have to focus on that. Her 2 girls recovered without any other intervention. One of them fully recovered and one is barely on the spectrum now.
Wow.
And all she did was work on herself.
Just like you were saying, you were helping a family member with a thing. Mm-hmm. And that affected other people in their lives. Without even. So to tie it back to you, listener, if you want, you've heard us. You're like, well, where do I begin with this? How do I work? What do I actually need to do? Start with the Ho'oponopono forgiveness process. There's a 7-minute video on YouTube.
If you look up Dr. Matt James Ho'oponopono 7 minutes, we'll link it in the show notes. Yeah.
So start with that. That's the thing that was done in the story that we shared in the beginning, the big long thing that I read. And it's something that we do ourselves, Michelle and I. And the other thing you can do if you really want to go deep is get coaching with us or do a breakthrough session or both, because that's where the magic really happens. That's where internal change within yourself gets amplified to a level you never thought was possible. Mm-hmm. And when that, like we said in this episode, when you change internally, when you heal within yourself, everything in your outside, everything out there changes as well for the better.
Yeah. Things just start to line up in a beautiful, amazing, synchronous way, like an orchestra that's finally playing in tune. At least that's been my experience.
Certainly.
Well, thank you very much, listeners, for coming on this ride with us as we just had real talk today, delving into this topic, geeking out. And we cannot wait to see you for our next episode.